What if the land beneath your cabin or favorite hiking trail still echoed with the footsteps of the Mouache Ute, the first people to call the Spanish peaks home? This journal invites you into their world, tracing their migrations and history, uncovering their deep ties to southern Colorado, and revealing ways their legacy continues to shape life in the Cuchara Valley today.
For centuries, they thrived in the southern Rockies, adapting to the rhythm of the seasons and shaping a way of life tied to mountains, valleys, and sacred places. Their story unfolds in three sweeping arcs, the lifeways that grounded them in this land, the upheavals of Spanish, Mexican, and American expansion, and the endurance of their legacy through exile and leaders like Buckskin Charlie. This journal traces that journey, inviting you to see Cuchara not only as a mountain retreat, but also as a homeland layered with memory, resilience, and history that still speaks today.
The life they lived. For the Mouache Ute, the Spanish peaks were more than landmarks. They were sacred guardians of a homeland where families followed ancient trails, lived from the bounty of the land, and built a society guided by wisdom rather than rigid rule. In Ute oral tradition, the people have always been in the southern Rockies. They were placed there by their creator, they call Sinawav, at the beginning of time. Having inhabited southern Colorado for centuries, Cuchara lies within the traditional territories of the Ute people, especially the Mouache and Capote bands. Both bands were traditionally hunter-gatherers who relied on game and wild plants, while considering Cuchara's Spanish peaks to be sacred territory. The Capote occasionally visited the Cuchara Valley, but the Mouache were the easternmost Ute band, ranging from Denver to northern New Mexico and seasonally inhabiting the Cuchara region and Spanish peaks. Long before Spanish or American settlers arrived, the Mouache and other Ute bands had adapted beautifully to life in the southern Rockies. They were travelers. Each season carried them along well-worn trails to familiar campsites, where they hunted, foraged, and crafted what they needed from the land. Without horses, which would not arrive until the late 1500s, families moved on foot with dogs, forming small encampments. They hunted game, foraged widely, and crafted everything from baskets to clothing, using every part of the animals they took. Their society was equally adaptive. The Utes had no centralized political structure, and extended families formed loosely organized bands led by respected patriarchs. Leadership was fluid and based on wisdom or skill, and individuals could freely leave one band for another, creating a flexible and democratic system well-suited for survival in lean times.
Forces of change. Horses, Spaniards, regional power struggles, and shifting alliances brought sweeping changes to the Mouache, reshaping their world on every front. Adaptation amidst disruption became their most critical challenge. The arrival of the horse in the late 16th and early 17th centuries transformed Ute life. Spanish colonists settled in New Mexico in 1598, and within decades, horses reached Ute hands through trade or raids. Southern Ute oral tradition claims the Mouache had horses as early as 1580, making them among the first native peoples in today's United States to master horse culture. By 1637, Spanish records described Utes in open conflict with colonial officials, including the capture and enslavement of some 80 Ute people in Santa Fe, many of whom escaped and brought horses home. This mobility gave the Utes an edge in hunting and warfare and shaped every aspect of their future. Throughout the 1700s, the Mouache navigated shifting alliances with Apache, Comanche, and Pueblo peoples, sometimes joining forces, other times clashing over land and resources. These turbulent relations reflected the constant struggle for power on the New Mexico frontier and set the stage for later conflicts. By the late 18th century, the Mouache were indispensable players in the geopolitics of New Mexico. They served as allies in Governor Juan Bautista de Anza's campaign against the Comanche in 1779, helped secure a decisive victory that killed Chief Cuerno Verde, and witnessed the 1786 peace that brought a fragile stability to the region. But the world around them was changing quickly. Trade, raiding, slavery, and settlement increasingly disrupted their lands, and over the next century, the Mouache would face Spanish, Mexican, the Republic of Texas, and American powers. all determined to claim the very ground their people had walked for centuries. Spanish, and later, Mexican rule brought sweeping change to Mouache Ute life. Now, mounted and armed, they expanded buffalo hunts on the plains and participated in the borderlands' economy of raiding and captivity. Women and children taken from rival tribes were traded in Taos and Santa Fe slave markets, while buckskins and furs were exchanged at trade fairs in Taos and Abiquiu for horses, firearms, blankets, and alcohol. Yet broken promises often sparked raids, including attacks in the Taos Valley in the 1840s when land grants encroached on Ute territory. The Spanish responded with military campaigns, noting in 1754 that the Mouache had allied with Jicarilla Apache, raising concerns. After Mexico's independence in the 1820s, settlers moved into the San Luis Valley, long a Mouache hunting ground. By the 1850s, Chief Cañete vigorously asserted Ute ownership of the San Luis and Conejos valleys. The 1849 Abiquiu Treaty promised peace, but was weakly enforced. Despite new forts and agencies, conflicts continued, culminating in Chief Terrablanca's 1854 attack on Fort Pueblo, the so-called Ute War.
Enduring legacy, a surge of settlers from the gold rush, broken treaties, land seizures, violent clashes like the Fort Pueblo attack and the Meeker massacre, and relentless U.S. pressure made the Utes' removal to southwest Colorado all but inevitable. The gold rush of 1858 and creation of Colorado Territory in 1861 intensified displacement. The 1868 treaty confined the Utes to western Colorado, though many Mouache resisted leaving. Losses mounted. The Brunot Agreement of 1873 ceded the San Juan Mountains, and the Meeker Massacre of 1879 fueled cries for removal. By 1881, U.S. troops escorted the last Mouache from the Spanish peaks. Though exiled, their legacy endures in the land and memory of southern Colorado. One of the most remarkable figures to emerge from was Chief Sapia, better known as Buckskin Charlie. Rising to leadership after the Ute removals, he guided his people for more than 60 years with diplomacy and resilience. You can read his story told in full within Journal 52. Buckskin Charlie on leadership in this blog.
Whispers of the Mouache. The story of the Mouache reminds us that Cuchara is more than a vacation spot or mountain retreat. It is a homeland layered with memory, resilience, and history that continues to shape this valley today. Even in exile, the Mouache left footprints that time could not erase. The mountains still whisper their story, and the winds through the Spanish peaks carry their song of resilience. Each time we hike a trail, pause at the Spanish peaks, or rest in a cabin here, we are walking in the long shadow of the Mouache. Their story is not just history, it is part of the living identity of this valley.